Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson, and today for our guest, we have Matthew James Palmquist of the band Goop City. Matthew, great to have you on.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So why don't you give our listeners here just like a little bit of insight on what got you started on music, kind of like what your influences are and what you're doing currently?
Cool. Well, I started playing the saxophone about 9 years ago. Or no, 19 years ago. Sorry. Whole 10 years off. I was in, I think, 4th grade, and I heard a John Coltrane song from my music teacher, and I basically went home after hearing that, and I told my mom that I wanted to play the saxophone because I loved how it sounded, and I wanted to make those sounds. I started, I think, 1 year earlier than most people start. Most people start in 5th grade. I started in 4th grade and got lessons in 4th grade. Got moved up to accelerated bands in school. And then it got to the point where I got really bored playing sheet music. So I stopped playing their sheet music. And then that came to me eventually getting kicked out of a high school band that I was in, which was cool because then I just started listening to my favorite songs and I started learning how to play more by ear. And I developed an ear that has gotten me to where I'm at today with my saxophone career. I don't know, one big thing that I tried to do is I would just listen to my favorite music, whether or not it was a singer or a guitarist or a saxophonist. I would try to mimic my favorite part of the song. So I learned how to play songs that John Mayer sang, except I would cut out John Mayer's vocals and I would play his vocals with my saxophone. So I just replicate what he does with his voice with my sax.
That's awesome. Is there like a specific song that you remember like listening to that kind of like inspired you to play saxophone where like when you heard it you're like, oh my god, this is like what I want to do?
Yeah, it was my favorite thing is by John Coltrane.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What would you say kind of is like, because throughout even like bands in school, they're kind of like conceptions about like the people that play certain types of instruments. What would you say would be like specifically some of the things that like when you would describe a saxophone player, like would there be like any defining characteristics of that person?
Well, I don't know. I know my characteristics is like as to be like I want to be the best saxophonist possible. I want every single solo that band teacher has to offer. I want to belt out notes that I really want to like kind of make people turn their heads when they hear my sound come out of my instrument. I'm kind of a microphone hog. I play a little bit too much sometimes, but I don't know, that could just be my personality in general. But I don't know, I didn't really talk to too many other saxophonists when I was in band class because I was so different. Like, they were by the books, they wanted the sheet music, and I was like, at a certain point, I strayed completely away from it, memorized all the notes on the sheet music, and I just wouldn't read. I would just do my own thing.
Yeah. So I remember we talked a little bit previous to this, and you said that your first Coltrane album, Love Supreme, was kind of your inspiration. Could you kind of, what exactly about that album inspired you?
It's just, what I love about that song is that it's one song that's about 30 minutes and it's like a story. You know, you close your eyes. I still listen to this on vinyl, like, at least once a week, you know? And I close my eyes and it kind of like, you can tell where John Coltrane was at just through the sound of his saxophone in his life. And I didn't think that when I first started listening to that. When I was younger, I just really loved the sound of it, and I really loved how it made me feel. But as I listened to that track that inspired me to play, it kind of made me want to replicate where I'm at in life with what I'm playing. And so I'm trying to do that. I'm definitely not John Coltrane. Nowhere near as good, but yeah, he's an inspiring dude. Love Supreme was made when he got clean and sober, and I didn't know that until college. I was studying jazz history, and we had a segment on John Coltrane, and he was going through some addiction issues, and you can tell the difference from his music before and after Love Supreme. It's really crazy.
Yeah. So could you maybe explain a little bit how playing the saxophone got you into the band? Because usually when you listen to bands, a good majority of them don't have saxophones. I mean, there are a couple, but it just seems kind of pretty lucky to get into a band playing a saxophone. Could you kind of go over how that happened?
Yeah. I've been like a freelance artist, doing a lot of freelance work in Minneapolis, and so I usually get, like, lately, well, what started me out was open mics. So I would go to open mics, and word of mouth would spread that, hey, there's a saxophone player who will play on any of your songs and try to make it sound as good as possible. And so then everybody started hitting me up within the past, like, 5 years to play saxophone with them. But there was never a band, that was formed. It was just me doing freelance work.
Yeah.
It took me saying yes to certain opportunities that introduced me to my group today, Goop City, and they're like my best friends now. We have Max Optimistic from Lifted Minds. We got MF Hayes, Maria. She's chilling over here. She's a dope MC.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good.
I'm falling asleep.
Yeah. So what would you say is the hardest part of being the MC? Asking Maria.
What was that?
What was the hardest part you think of being the MC?
Being an MC?
For Goop City.
I mean, the hardest part, that's kind of like, how would you define hard? I feel like, there's always, like, different challenges that arise just, like, being in any kind of, like, collective, you kind of feel each other out and, like, the ways of communication and, yeah, just assigning yourself where you need to be in the band is kind of, like, what we've been going through lately. So
you just kind of got to be, like, flexible with people and know, like, how to deal with them and just have good people skills.
Yeah, that's a big part about it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a trumpet player too, and we can both get in this shot.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, we have a trumpet player, and basically we wanted to learn how to get our horns more involved with hip hop.
Oh yeah.
And so we're still working on that as a group, and we're working on all of us rap. We all rap in the group. We all have a voice, and we all want it to be heard. So in a sense, we're just trying to figure out how to make it sound really clean. And
in Goop City, right now it's like the four of us, and we're all kind of MCs, but we also all make our own music, and that's kind of like, it's just infusing all of that together. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, like, how difficult is it to sort of mix like a saxophone, mix a trumpet in with rap music? Because you think rap is such a distinctive sound, and then for trumpet and saxophone, they have their own sort of distinctive sound. What really goes into kind of making those two sounds work together in a song?
One thing that we do is we have been writing structured parts for our horns. Another thing is that we give time for me on saxophone and Joey on trumpet to have our own solos in between the songs, and it allows the person who's rapping in the song to take a break and get a breath of air before he has to go back in, or before she has to go back in and spit some bars.
I feel like it's also just in almost any song, like hip hop is so great because it's such a broad genre where it infuses jazz, it infuses metal, it infuses whatever you want it to. So it's kind of like we just gotta chisel those spots out to let the horns kind of shine with the song.
Yeah.
And who writes mainly the lyrics of the group?
We all take a part in it. We're all really, in my opinion, pretty gifted lyricists. I hate to. I'm super confident. Yeah, I'm like the worst MC in the group. But no.
So how does that work exactly? If everyone kind of contributes, is there like someone that kind of like puts the bass on the lyrics, like just does like the basic part of the lyrics, or is there like you guys all just have different lyrics and then you say how can we combine these and make it into a song, or how does that work?
I write a lot of lyrics. Like I spend pretty much like morning to night just shit's just always kind of popping in my head.
So do you mainly take your lyrics from the like stuff popping in your head, or do you take it maybe from like daily life or like stuff that you hear on the news, or is it just like a combination of all those?
It's a combination of everything that runs through our heads. And what we do is we'll have like writing sessions where we play a beat that we've made or that someone we know has given us like permission to use, basically. And we'll sit there and write for anywhere from like an hour to like 6 or 7 hours, and then we'll rehearse our parts and structure it a little bit more based off the verses and make it chorus. And if we're feeling risky, we'll add some horn section, It's pretty crazy. It's fun, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you were in bluegrass bands and hip hop. What made you want to join bluegrass?
Just the offer was presented to me, and I can't, as a freelance musician, I can't say no to opportunities that are new. It was interesting though, because the bluegrass thing just happened a few weeks ago, where these guys, Goop City was playing at a festival called Earth Rhythms. And then we got acquainted with some other friends who are in a band called the Northern Medicine. And the Northern Medicine, like 3 guys formed a different band that kind of plays like folky bluegrass music. And they, spur of the moment, asked me to play with them.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, like, of course. Like,
yeah, you always got to be on your toes, I guess.
Yeah, and it worked out well, and we played a few shows since then together, and planning on playing more shows.
That's awesome.
They're called Midnight Postal Service.
Midnight Postal Service. Everyone remember that. So, I remember you told me that you had been on tour with multiple artists. What would you say is the biggest misconception about being on tour? Because I've had people on here who've talked about tour before, and one of the biggest misconceptions I think the average person has is that it's just like one big party and everyone just parties all the time and then you play music, but there's just a lot of downtime and it's a lot of just being in a car ride. But what would you say also would be one of the biggest misconceptions about touring?
It's hard, like, unless you're like really like the tours I've been on, I came out with no money. It's definitely not glamorous, but it's worth it as a musician to do it if that's really what your goal is. And that's my goal, is travel and play music.
And make Goopy glamour.
Yeah, make Goopy glamour. But one thing is, we're driving, like when I went from Minneapolis to Waubun, Minnesota to Duluth, Minnesota, that was a little one, but when I went there, we were in a car that could have broken down at any moment. Sorry. We were hungry, but we managed. I mean, at that point, it's kind of about survival in my eyes. Like, You're getting to the next venue safely, and you have a place to sleep. Like, it's really important to get all that set up, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's on the same page as you and your band, So
how do you start a tour? Do you basically just like call random venues, or do you like kind of have an idea like of where you want to go and then you just call the venues, or do the venues sometimes like call you and then you're like, oh, maybe we've got enough offers where we could do a tour? How did that work specifically for you?
Well, what we've been doing lately is we've been making connections with out-of-state artists. Either like they'll come and play in Minnesota, and we'll make connection. Like we made a connection with these guys from Kansas City at a festival we played about a month ago, and those guys in Kansas City liked what we were doing, and they invited us to play a show with them in Kansas City. So we booked that, and then we had another friend named Christopher Michael Jensen. He wanted to set something up in Las Vegas. I really feel like booking tour is all about connections and being able to network and say, hey, we're 100% committed to playing at your venue, like 800 miles away.
And that's kind of what we were just talking about today too. Is like our other member Max. He's really good at doing that. Like just kind of reaching out to people, and you just kind of have to put yourself out there and you know what you're doing before you do it, and just execute it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys remember where your first show was and what it was like?
Our first show, it was an event that I created called the Jam for Youth, and it was a benefit show that we're going to continue to grow and make bigger.
What's the benefit for?
It's for a youth shelter in Uptown called the Bridge for Youth.
Nice.
We've raised a total of a little bit over $1,000 for them.
Nice.
Since we've been doing this event. But yeah, that was our first set, and that's when
we do canned goods, and then they also they help kids have homes, and it's a really great cause.
It's for kids who are having family struggles.
Yeah.
They can go to the Bridge and get a free place to stay and counseling and food.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, one of the big parts that we talk about here is kind of the high that musicians usually get performing live, what that's like, what it's like when you're performing and people just that you're bringing joy to people, and that you're kind of all the practices have kind of paid off, and that you're finally just releasing your music. How does that feel to you as musicians when you guys perform?
It's incredible. It's the reason I do this is because I'm at my happiest when I have my horn on stage with my good friends. That is, it's what I live for, literally, is playing music for other people and trying to make them dance. We can make them dance sometimes, so that's cool. We can make people smile. I've seen people just smile.
And it's really too it really helps us learn about each other and how well we can listen to each other as a group too.
Yeah.
So,
are there any pre-show rituals that you guys do to get ready to go on stage?
Should we talk about how we smoke weed all the time?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Pre-show rituals that you guys do before the show. Is there any traditions that you guys have as a band?
Yeah, we got a tradition.
We get goopy.
Hey, I've got a lot of people say they get drunk. A lot of people say they get high. I mean, whatever helps you.
We smoke herb. Well, I smoke herb usually before every show, and Max smokes a lot of herb.
I like to take a nap.
Is there a difference in your performance when you smoke weed as opposed to when you don't smoke weed?
No difference. I mean, we have our set practiced and down to a T. I just feel me personally, I don't enjoy playing more when
we just smoke weed every day.
Yeah. It's kind of
No, but before a show, I feel before a show we usually kind of we kind of just get together and
run our set.
We kind of go through everything and just make sure that we're all vibing together on the same page. And I usually I'll kind of just make sure to have a self-care day, before the show. Yeah,
absolutely. So you were talking about before you were making your set list for your performance that you have tonight, and we'll plug that a little bit later. But when it comes to making a set list, what goes into sort of the order that you guys play songs? Do you write songs sometimes specifically knowing what order they'll be in, or do you just kind of just have all your songs and then you just kind of decide what you think would be best for them on the set list? How does that work?
Yeah, lately we've actually been paying a lot of attention to the structure of our sets. Tonight we're gonna start off with a really chilled out acoustic set. We're gonna have 4 acoustic songs. 2 of them by Maria and 2 of them from Max, and I'm gonna back up Max with saxophone, and Joey will be playing trumpet.
We're gonna like build up.
Yep, we're gonna build up to our hip hop, and then we're gonna drop some more lighthearted hip hop, and then we're gonna drop our trap music at the end, so people can like dance and get goofy.
Has there been a lot of trial when it comes to forming your set list, or have you guys kind of always had it figured out?
There's been trial and error in pretty much all of our sets. It's like we always come out.
There's been shows where we get like really into it, and then it's like, oh shit, what are we gonna do next? And then we're just sitting there, and it's like, okay, now the energy's died. So we're kind of working on making sure that we have, okay, what do we want the crowd to feel tonight, and then kind of build off of that. And so we're playing at a party tonight, and so we're gonna end off with like kind of spoken word like bit after after we have everything super hypey. So it should be nice.
Is there one performance in particular at one specific place that you remember more than anything else? Like, is there one iconic time that you guys performed when you were like, this is our big show?
Yeah, we had a thing called Goop Fest at the Caboose.
Wow.
And we had some great performers by our side. We had Carnage the Executioner. We had Gypsy Freak Circus.
Will Robinson.
We had a big
Northern Medicine.
We had like bluegrass, hip-hop, and electronic rock music all in one set. And then we kind of headlined that show. And there was a moment where there was like 12 hula hoopers on stage, and the whole crowd was just sucked in. And I looked up, and I felt it. It was like that was.
I feel like
that was our
honestly
best
though,
set.
we honestly like we kind of feel like that about every at least I do. Like every show that we go to, I'm just like, yeah, this is it. This is our big show. Like we're getting goofy,
Yeah, absolutely.
When we want people to step in the goop, we make them step in the goop,
Yeah. So how did the name Goop City come to be? Is there a story behind that, or is it just someone just randomly thought of it? How'd that work out?
Well, so I was a part of a group called the Ancient Moon a couple of years back, and
that's a great name.
yeah, we played like side dub saxophone music.
Oh. Yeah.
So we would just create like really weird electronic music with a saxophone twist. And at our sets, I don't know what happened. We were playing a festival, and I just started feeling something like coming out of my mouth, and it was "Don't step in the goop." I was like, I told all the people who were watching us to not step in the goop, and they looked around, and I was like, gotcha. But I kept on saying it. And then I started doing like more freelance stuff and my own solo art, and I was continuing to say it. And it was catching on. Like, people would call me the Goop guy. And then I met Max, and Max and I started playing more regularly, and then Maria came in, and Joe came in, and I produced a song on Ableton called Goop City, and we had been playing it at our shows on a regular basis, and we had one meeting where we all decided to become a band, and we were like, Goop City's the name for our group, because we have already been marketing it in a weird way. And so I've had people come up to me after shows, and they were like, Matt, I remember when you just told people about the Goop like 2 years ago, and nobody knew what it was. And now it's a full band, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how it happened, but we got it down.
It's just a great metaphor too, just for, like that. It's kind of like getting through the mud. You got to go through the slime, and it's just like that. It kind of brings us all together,
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so now we get to the part of the podcast where we do sort of like an inside the actors studio. I'm going to ask both of you 3 questions, and I have the answers from everyone tallied down. I'm just going to keep a poll for all my listeners out there, and then we'll at the end, after like a certain number of podcasts, I'll like list the main results. But the first question is, out of all the songs ever written in the history of music, what is one that you wish the most you would come up with yourself?
I'm going to say Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
Just straight up because I think it's one of the best rock and roll songs of all time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The structure of it, everything about it is genius.
Mhm.
And whenever I listen to it, I'm like, how did Freddie Mercury come up with this?
Yeah.
Like, how did they do that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm jealous of Freddie Mercury's songwriting abilities. Let's be real.
I don't know if I would really like say that I would wish that I would write anyone else's song. But I really admire like one lyric that has always got me is "The Wind Cries Mary" by Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
I love that song.
Cool.
And I also really love Idea. The album that him and Abilities wrote together, Firstborn. Probably like that entire album is like one song just telling one long story.
Yep.
And that album is great too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So, out of any artist, dead or alive, doesn't matter which one between, doesn't matter dead or alive, that you could perform with once, who would it be and why?
John Coltrane.
John Coltrane. All right.
And just because he's the one who inspired me to be where I'm at right now as a musician, you know. If I didn't hear John Coltrane, I would not have a saxophone. I'm pretty sure. So I owe it to him for a lot of what I do right now.
Honestly, like I want to say Jimi Hendrix, but like
Yeah,
honestly,
Jimmy
the one person would be my dad. Like he's a fucking god to me. Like
Is he what got you into music?
What was that?
Is he what got you into music?
Yeah, my dad, he's a musician. He's a blues man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, out of all the venues on the planet, this is the last question, out of all the venues on the planet, which one would you want to play at the most and why?
I just think I've always thought Red Rocks
Red
is
Rocks?
at the top of my list.
That's the second time we've heard Red Rocks, yep.
Yeah, I think Red Rocks is just the idea of playing in a natural amphitheater, a giant one in a beautiful setting in Colorado. Like, I love Colorado a lot too, but it's just, I can't get that thought out of my head playing a set at Red Rocks, and I never have been able to leave that thought.
Yeah.
But the idea is, you know, you have to know how to book that, and you have to have the right connections, and we're obviously not there yet, but
We will be there.
We'll be there.
We just gotta get it.
yeah, we just gotta nip it in the butt and meet the right person.
I feel like all the festivals, you know, like Burning Man would be great to play. But I honestly could see myself I could see us Goop, you know, traveling the world and just playing you know, just whatever. Like Max and I went to Hawaii. We didn't really have we had just a few shows set up throughout. Well, we had probably 10 shows throughout 3 weeks set up, and we just went out there and hitchhiked and connected with the locals, and we plan on going to Thailand, and I want to go to Bali, and kind of just you know go and branch out and see new parts of the world and spread our music.
That's amazing. So.
Yeah.
It says that you're also playing a tour in August. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're doing a little mini tour. We're flying out to Las Vegas to play a show on the 5th, right?
15th.
On the 15th.
The 5th is Kansas City.
Oh,
The
wow.
5th is Kansas City. And then, so I guess it's not straight up like a...
We just have we got those 2 shows, and we're trying to get some shows.
We have a
booked in
festival.
between.
We have a festival that we're playing, not Lunar Frequency, but it's the
That-
Sunrise Gathering.
Yeah, that one is back in Minnesota. So
Yeah, so we'll be going from Kansas City to Las Vegas, and then we'll be playing in Waubun, Minnesota, which I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Peerless Ranch.
I haven't heard of it, but I'll definitely look into it. I mean, I'm just trying.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to get into more of the local scene too. So with the venues and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, Peerless Ranch is amazing.
They have 40 acres, and it's pretty much like just freedom up there. Like you can go there and
Kind of like a Woodstock kind of thing.
It's on a
Just
reservation.
Yeah.
So it's like it's all like Indian police and stuff, and they're
Oh,
all
wow.
just like they pretty much you just go do whatever you want, and it's just crazy. And there's a lazy river, like a natural stream that runs through, and it's beautiful.
They have 4 stages set up. They have a barn stage, a grove stage, a main stage, and a forest stage.
Wow.
And so what they do is they curate like giant events that last 2 to 4 days. And
Yeah,
so we'll be going there.
Pure Bliss Ranch.
That's unbelievable. So, where can people find Goop City's music? Do you guys have it on iTunes? Do you guys have YouTube or Spotify? Do you have all of them?
We all have music on separate streaming sites right now. We're actually working on like a collective album.
Mm-hmm.
But like I have stuff on SoundCloud. She has stuff on SoundCloud. Max has stuff on SoundCloud. Joey does.
We're making a Goop City SoundCloud within the next like 2 days. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're all, there's stuff on Spotify. Like Max has some stuff on Spotify. I have some stuff on iTunes.
Max has a beat store.
Nice.
Yeah, we could send you links to.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and then I'll definitely put the links below at the bottom. So it also says you guys have merch. Where could people find that?
We're actually getting our first order of T-shirts in about a week, and they can
basically
can find them at our shows. We're going to be vending a lot at our shows.
We're also on our Instagram. I make clothing too. I'm a seamstress.
Oh, nice.
So I'm gonna kind of take over the merch bin and just like put everything. I have like handmade stuff too for Goop City, and so yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like Instagram will probably be a good spot for that.
So where's your show tonight? And where can people? Is there tickets that people can buy, or where's the show at tonight?
Show's at apartment complex that's right across from Lake Calhoun. It's right next to the Lake Calhoun or the Calhoun Beach Club.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing is we're playing for our friend's birthday.
Oh, nice.
And there's gonna be an outdoor pool on the roof, and there's gonna be like a bonfire pit. It's kind of a potluck. This one's more of a private event, but then we post a lot of where our shows are gonna be on our social media pages. Yep. So if you follow Goop City Music on Facebook, you'll know exactly where we're going to be within the next week.
On the 19th, that show is at the Poorhouse.
The Poorhouse.
Yeah,
okay.
That's another benefit show.
All right.
We have a Jam for Youth on July 19th.
And that's a really cool venue, too. And there'll be artists there, live painters and stuff like that. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, well, I'll definitely leave a link below, and I'll definitely post the dates that you guys have coming up, and I wish you guys all the best. I mean, it was great talking to you guys, and I hope your tour goes well. And if you guys ever need me to plug anything, just let me know, and I'll plug it for you guys.
Good.
I mean, it was great talking to you, and you guys, hopefully you guys have a good show tonight, and we'll definitely speak, and you guys are more than welcome to come back on the podcast if you want to, and take it easy, you guys.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. This is Ryan Johnson from DD on the Spot signing off. Everyone have a great night.